All right. So, this class is going to teach you about the fundamentals of database design and creating databases, but also programming databases and how to combine your database with other programming languages. And the language that we are going to be combining our databases is going to be Python. I am aware that some of you have not taken Python in the past or that have taken Java instead of Python. We are going to do or maybe some of you have taken Python because that is a requirement, which is CIS 166. We're going to go over the basics and also a little bit of the more complex part of Python. So basically, you can always reach out to me through email. I will be available through email. There will be PowerPoints, the lessons of that I will be giving, the lectures, will be provided to you via PowerPoints. However, everything that I say or everything that is in the slides is also going to be in the book, okay? And the book will be talking about all the topics more in details, okay? So it is really important you go over the materials of the book, not only depend on the slides or the PowerPoint that I share with you. All right. So you're going to be able to properly design the databases. You are going to understand what is an ER diagram and what is an EER diagram. You're going to be able to create databases using MySQL also. The book that you are given is a book it's focused on SQL. SQL is a language, a programming language. MySQL is a relational database management system. So it's a database management system. What does that mean by being a database management system? It provides an environment for you to write program in SQL. However, it has its own syntax. Okay, so there are different type of database management systems. Like, for example, guys, please mute yourself when you sign in. Okay, so the MySQL, also there is MariaDB, there Oracle, SQL for Oracle or SQL for Microsoft. There are different DBMS, or in other words, database management systems. Okay, so we're going to be using MySQL, and we're going to be installing in your computer, yourself will be installing on your computer MySQL Server and MySQL Workbench. However, for those of you who only have a Mac, okay, you will have to download an older version of MySQL Server and an older version of MySQL Workbench for you to be able to work with MySQL Workbench without any troubles, okay? You're going to be learning how to create tables, relationships, indexes, views, store procedure, and apply the appropriate data. So store procedures is like, if you are familiar with Python, store procedures are like functions, okay? Functions functions or methods, if you are familiar with Java, that will allow you to perform certain tasks. So you have store procedures and also store functions, okay? We're going to go over about both of them and what those two, and that is going to allow you to program in your database. Also, you can create triggers. You can do event triggers in MySQL and also SQL in standard SQL. We're going to focus on creating triggers, creating store procedures, and store functions using MySQL. However, there are going to be examples, and those examples on the book are going to be those labs or activities in the book will be using standard SQL. Right, so you are going to be learning about the relational algebra, inner joins, left join, right join. You're also going to be learning about the normalization. Also, you're going like first norm, second norm, how to normalize a database. You're also going to be learning about the different relationships. Also understand what is DDL, DML, and DCL. Also, you will understand how to create if statements, conditional statements in MySQL. And finally, but not least, like last but not least, you're going to be able to build HTTP servers using Python and create connections to connect to your MySQL database. Now, you are required to access your book, okay? You are required to access your book. And to gain an access code, you need to pay $60. Okay, then you have to join the section key, this given key in there. This is going to allow you to see the assignments that are going to be given to you, and it's also going to allow me to see the completion of your quizzes. All your quizzes are going to be given to you through the books, okay? The homeworks are going to be given to you for you to submit through Blackboard. Midterm is going to be through Blackboard, and the final exam, it's not a final exam. I'm not going to give you a final exam. I'm giving you a final project. It's a take-home test. All right. Now I open the floor for questions.
Professor,
Yes?
the quizzes are timed, or we can do it anytime. Like we can do some part and stay and do it later.
So for you to install MySQL server, there are two ways to do that. So one way is that you go directly to Google and you just put download MySQL server. And then you can download it and install it. The other way is downloading the MySQL installer. So if you have a Windows machine, you can download the MSI installer. Okay. However, if you have a different operating system, okay, like for example, Mac, if you have Mac OS or you have Linux, you should install separately the MySQL server and MySQL workbench. So with the installer, okay, there are two things that you want to install. You want to install the MySQL workbench and the MySQL server. Understood? If you want, you can also install other features like MySQL CLI.
Are you going to show us which one to install for the MacBook?
So for the Mac, so basically there are it depends on how new is your computer. If your Mac is new, a newer version is, if it is not old, then any version of Mac for Mac is fine. However, if your Mac is old, okay, I mean it has a different architecture, then you should download the MySQL server 3.0, I mean 30.0 and below, okay?
So this one right here that says installer 8.0.34. If you have a newer MacBook, we can use it.
Correct. And
Okay.
However, this is for the installer. Let me come back to the download the MySQL server in here. So for the Mac, you are going to download the MySQL community server. So when you are installing both of them, when you install the server is the most important one. That is where your database are going to be located, okay? Your MySQL server is where your database are going to be, okay? So you will make connection to this server to be able to access to these databases. And therefore, you need to make sure that your server, you have to make sure that you remember the password that you are given to this server, okay? So there is a password, and this password is very important. So when you install your server, make sure that you are not just clicking continue. You need to make sure that you provide a password for this MySQL server and that you remember this password, okay? Because it will save you from a lot of trouble. Understood?
Okay, so I have another question. So this community server, is that different from the installer and the workbench, or you need all three?
So the installer will allow you to install all of them, all features that you need for MySQL. Okay.
Okay. All right.
However, some for Mac sometimes there is no installer, so that's why you have to download the both, like the server and also the workbench. Okay.
For the older Macs or the newer Macs? Or it just depends?
For all the Macs. There are some sometimes. Yes? Yes? So
I'm listening. I'm listening.
oh yes, so I'm saying that in case you don't find any installer for Mac, then you have to install the server and the workbench, okay, separately, okay?
All right.
So basically, I go into here and I click on download the installer if you have Microsoft, so it's going to save you from anything. So you click on download, and then you don't need to log in or anything. Okay, I already have it. Can you mute yourself, guys, if you I don't have questions right now. So once you install, if you once you open your MySQL installer, okay, you can go ahead and install any services or any features that you want. If you want, you can also change the version, okay? Also, you can go ahead and add other features as well. For example, if you don't want to use Workbench, you can, and also you want to use MySQL for Visual Studio as well. Also, if you want to have a shell, you can install it. You need the MySQL server. That's the most important part. And also the MySQL Workbench for the examples that I'm going to be giving you. So
in that installer page that you just showed, we would select the add button for the server and for the workbench, correct?
correct. So basically, the installer, if you already have the installer,
Professor, excuse me, is there a way you can record this? Because I'm not getting all of this, and I need to, remember. That's what I was asking.
if you go to the services on your computer, on your Microsoft computer, you can stop the service for the MySQL server. You can restart it, you can pause it, you can start it if it is not automatically running. Okay? Now, if it is running, guys, you can connect to those services. Okay? So let's go over the workbench. Any questions so far?
Starting and stopping the service within Windows is just so that your computer doesn't slow down when you're not using it. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. When you have a lot of services running in the background, if you are not actually using them, sometimes your computer uses more memory than it should be using. Okay, but now with this so nice computers that you guys have, you sometimes don't worry about that. Okay, but in the past, when the memory was an issue, then that was the case. Okay, so so give me 1 second, and we are going to go into the workbench. So by using your installer, you are supposed to install the server and the workbench. If you have a Mac and you don't have and there is no installer available for you, then you should be downloading the server and and the workbench separately. But if you have the installer with you, if there is an installer for Mac, then you can use the installer and it will do everything for you. Okay. So basically, my the port that I set for my my SQL server is 8088. However, you have different ports on your computer, right? When you install your MySQL server, I think if you didn't provide a port number, it will give you the default port number. Okay. All right. If you want to create a new connection with a different name, so basically the 3306 is the default port, and that is the default port number that is going to be assigned if you don't want to have a if you don't want to have your own port of your choice. Okay, so you can select the name, for example, fall 2023, and right now I don't have any MySQL server running on my 3306 port. My port is running, my port is 8088. Okay, and then I can test the connection. Okay, and then I have to provide the server password, the password that I gave for my server. That's why when you install your server, your MySQL server, you have to remember the password. I sometimes forget my password. So if I try right now and I forget this password, it means that I don't remember the password. Okay. And there you go. Then I remember my password. So that means that my connection worked. Okay. And that means that I can go inside here and open and see all of those schemas, all of those databases that were created in the past. Okay. I have them on the schema. Okay. On this left panel in here where it says schemas. If you click on here, you can see administrations or a schema. Okay. If you want to create a new database schema, all you have to type in here is to create database and then database. And then provide a name for this database. So let's say, for example, fall 23. And then put in the semicolon. And then I just want to execute one statement at a time. Therefore, I click on this, okay, on this little yellow icon in here that has the I in there. And now I created the database called fall 23. And if I go ahead into my navigator and I click on here for reloading, I can see there is my database called fall 23. Okay. And now I don't want to have just an empty database. If I want, then I can go ahead and create use that database. Use fall 23. Okay. And there I click here and I can see that my outputs in the bottom are correct. Okay. Use, and that means that I can use this database fall 23. And now I want to create one table. Super easy, right? So create table. Okay. And this table, I should give it a name. So this name could be students. Okay. But I'm not done because I need to provide for the columns, okay? And one of those columns could be ID or a student ID, okay? And this, I want to make it an int, okay? And this int, I want to make it not null. And then I want to make this a primary key. And we are going to see more of this later on. And then I want another one. Let's say, for example, I want to create another column for my table, okay? So let's say this column is going to be called what? Name, right? And this name, I'm going to give it varchar. You know what? I'm going to name it a student name. Okay. And then I want to provide this as a varchar, which is for variable character, the varies, okay? And I'm going to provide the maximum length of my student is a student's name.
Hello, Professor.
Mm-hmm.
Can you use Microsoft Access in doing this?
No. We're not going to be using Microsoft Access, okay?
I'll just ask you.
Okay, no problem. Yes, I'm sure that you took this class, 244, was it? I don't remember which class, which is a requirement. And I'm sure that you did access in that class, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you are going to be now using the real thing in here, which is you're going to be coding in SQL. You're going to be using MySQL in here. Okay?
Okay, Professor.
No problem. Okay, so I am done creating this table with only 2 columns. And then I created this table, okay? And if I go ahead and want to see if there is anything in this table, select all, which is the star, select all from students, okay? I will see what? How many rows do I have in this table? How many elements do you think I will have in this table, students? Anybody? How many rows? How many rows do I have? How many students do I have in this table right now?
20.
0.
0. 0 students. Have you seen that I
So what's
added
the 24?
20 is the amount of characters that could be in the student name.
Oh, okay.
So if I go ahead and run this, I see nothing in there. This is ID and student name. So what about I go ahead and insert into this table, and let's add one student, one of you guys. Insert into students, okay? And then I can provide in there the names of your columns, okay? Student name. Values. And then I provide the values. So for example, 1, and the student name is going to be into varchar, it's going to be into strings. And let's see, 1 student name. Let's use Michael in here. And then in there, we have inserted Michael. So now when I do again this, how many students do I have in the table as students now?
One.
One. Correct. And who is the name? What is the name of the student in there?
Michael.
Correct. So you can see one, Michael, you can see it has the ID of one. Let's do one more. Let's insert 2 more students, okay? For ID, I'm going to give this ID 4, and the names, I'm going to go ahead and grab it from here. I'm going to put Adrienne and Adrienne, but let's say I want to add one more, okay? Let's say 5, okay? And what is going to be the name that I'm going to put in here? I'm going to put James. Okay, so now I execute and how many students do I have now? How many students do I have when I run this?
3.
3.
3, correct, right? So they have Michael, Adrian, and James, okay. But this is not only everything that you can see in here. Our first examples are going to be working from the front end, creating models, okay? And your homework is going to be creating models and generating code from these models. We're going to see it later on, okay? So, I'm going to give you the example that is going to help you with your homework number 1, okay? So we click on models, okay? I'm coming back. This in here, I'm not going to my connections. I'm going to the models, okay? Okay. So the models, do you see them here, guys? I click
Yes, you
on
can see.
models. Perfect. Then I click on plus. And then I want to create one new schema from the front end. I'm going to click on this plus sign. I don't want to use the default and my DB schema. I want to go ahead and create one new one. So I click on plus, and then I'm going to give it a name, right? This is a new database that I'm creating from the front end, okay? So I will give it this a name, and then it's going to be model for 23, okay? And in this model for 23, I want to add 2 tables, okay? So I double click on this. I just want to add the tables, okay? So I have 1 table, okay? And this table is going to go calls. It's going to be named courses, okay? And then I can go ahead and provide the names for this. Okay, maybe I don't want to have course column. I want to have course name. So I'm going to call it course name. Okay. And I'm going to make it a bar chart 45. Okay. And then I'm not going to make a primary key, but I'm going to make a not null. That's what not null and stands for. We also have unique, okay, unique. unassign, data sign, etc. Okay. One more. Let's not just create a table with 2 columns. Let's create one more column. So it's going to be this course section. But for that, I don't want to have a bar chart. I just want to have an int, okay? And I don't want it to be null, okay? Because this is important, all right? So there, I created my first table. Let's create one more table, okay? Double click on this. Rename this table. I don't want to call it table 1, okay? This is going to be called department, okay? Departments. And now I want to not have an empty table. I want to have columns in my table. So the first one, I'm going to just leave it as ID departments, okay? And the second one, I want to call it dep name, okay? And not null for this one. I don't want to have a third one, but let's just have a third one. What could be there? We have a department ID, we have a department name. Maybe a professor's number, so numbers of professors. So of staff. And that, you want that to be a varchar or what type of data type? Varchar is for text.
Since it's
What?
number.
Int.
Since it's number.
Int, right? Because you cannot have a decimal point, or you cannot have decimal point of a staff. You cannot have 1 staff and a half, right? We can have only int, right? So we make an int, right? And then not null. Okay, if you want, you can make it null. So there we have two tables, and there you see. We are going to see next time how to go in just in database. I'm going to show you right now. Okay, you go into database, right? And now that I have my model F23, I can go ahead and translate this beautiful schema, model F23, and those 2 beautiful tables that I just created. I can transform them. I can transform them into code and into real objects. Okay. So what I want to do is forward engineer. So you click on here, forward engineer. And then you select the one that you want to put it in which connection. This connection in here, these 2 connections are taking me to the same server, so it does not matter which one I put in here, but I'm going to just put here. And then I click on here, next. And then I can click on here, next. And I need to provide my password, okay? And then you click on next. And there you go. That's the code that was generated for you, okay? We don't want that code generated when I ask you to submit code, but for this, for the homework number 1, okay? For the homework number 1, you can use the forward engineer because it is required in the homework number 1. And then click on close. Now that I have already forward engineered, you guys can stay after class if you have trouble installing anything, okay? So let's go over this, okay? Let's continue working on this. I want to show you this. Let's go back to my connection, either one of this connection. And now I want to go ahead and see if my new database was already installed. And do you guys remember what is the name of that new database? It's called Model 4. And there you go. The 2 tables in there, courses and departments. And voila, they were created for you from the front end. Okay? You didn't have to write any code for that. Okay. That's an example with MySQL Workbench. Okay. Let me stop the recording for 1 second. And so basically, this is for you to go over it on your own, okay? And then after you go over this, okay, you are to complete the quizzes, okay? So you go over the introduction, you read through it, and then you check your knowledge, okay? You read, you check your knowledge. After that, you complete your quizzes, okay? So if you don't feel like reading that much and you feel like listening, you can also allow this to read for you. Yes, but I highly recommend that you guys read through it with your own voice and with your own brain, okay? And then if you want to listen one more time over that, you can listen to the computer reading for you, your browser reading for you. All right, so you have quizzes, okay? So the quiz from part 1 includes the lesson 1 and the lesson 2. And the quiz from part 2 includes the lesson 3 and the lesson 4. There are 2 quizzes that you need to complete. So basically, you complete them, okay? And after you complete them, you have to make sure that you know that you can pause if you don't remember something. You can pause the quiz, go back to your readings, and then go ahead and continue the quiz, okay? Is that clear, guys? So let's
Yes.
go. Oh, perfect. So let's go over the chapter 1 for this. We're not going to take the go over the entire chapter 1, so I can allow for you guys to ask questions about the installations. But I would like to start this chapter 1 because the time is running, guys.